Hello, and welcome to Energy Auditing 101, the auditing process. This short presentation is brought to you by the Oregon Housing and Community Services Multifamily Energy Program. It is the second of 3 modules that we will be presenting on the energy auditing process in multifamily buildings. Before the energy audit begins, the auditor will need to gather information about the property in a pre-inspection process. Much of this information is publicly available and can be gathered online, such as the location, size, and age of the building or buildings. Additionally, the auditor should have a discussion with the owner or manager of the property to determine what work is intended to be carried out, the condition of the systems, and if there are any systems that have been recently replaced. Finally, the auditor will need to plan for the site visit. In addition to scheduling it and determining how many units will need to be sampled, the auditor should account for any extra equipment that may be necessary due to non-standard tests. These may include combustion safety, duct leakage, or building leakage testing. At the site, the auditor should begin by discussing current conditions of the site with the manager and maintenance staff, who may be aware of systems that are not running properly and should be given special attention. When possible, information from tenants should also be taken into account. The auditor will need to inspect all spaces related to the energy use of the property. These include all mechanical and hot water systems, any space with lighting on the property meter, and accessible attic and crawl spaces. The correct number of units will need to be inspected also, where lighting, appliances, water fixtures, and any in-unit mechanical systems will be reviewed. Combustion safety testing will also be carried out in the units if applicable and requested. Throughout this process, the auditor will need photo documentation of all equipment and conditions seen, particularly nameplates and other identifying information of equipment. While at the site, the auditor will need to keep in mind that photos will be necessary both for later confirmation of equipment types and conditions and for delivering recommendations to the property owner. Therefore, photos should include technical details of equipment as noted, in addition to general overview shots of the site and existing equipment. Care should also be taken to photograph controllers, meters, and circuit breakers when possible. Additionally, the auditor will need to take detailed notes on the property, including types and counts of lighting and water fixtures, insulation levels, and notes or schematics of any complicated or unexpected systems. After the site visit is completed, the auditor will need to deliver a report to the owner detailing their findings and recommendations, in addition to checking on any hazardous conditions seen at the site visit and setting up potential follow-up visits. If the auditor notes potential health hazards for tenants, they should inform the owner and, if possible, follow up to confirm that the hazards have been handled. Follow-up visits may be necessary if additional testing is requested by the owner or necessary for measures the owner wishes to complete. Also, some measures will need to be inspected prior to project completion, such as wall insulation that would be covered up at the project closeout. The report is the primary vehicle of communication between the energy auditor and the project team, and so should have care put into it. Ideally, it will include written and photographic review of existing conditions and descriptions of recommended measures that can be understood by a layperson, but also with sufficient detail that contractors will know what will need to be installed and how. A summary table of recommended measures is also useful so that the owner and manager will be able to quickly review the recommendations. Additional information that may be useful or of interest but doesn't fit in the report can be added to appendices at the conclusion. These are a couple of sample pages of a report. On the left is a cover page, which should show the property, name, and parties involved. On the right is an example of a recommended measure, LED lighting. It includes a description of the types of lighting currently at the property with photos, a description of what is recommended for installed LED lights, and details on the recommendations for specific fixtures at the property. This has been the second of 3 modules on Energy Auditing 101 in multifamily buildings. We hope you have enjoyed this presentation and will continue on to watch the final module, in which we'll discuss system types found in multifamily buildings. If you haven't seen it, please take a look at the first module, reviewing the purpose and protocols of energy auditing and their place in the Oregon Multifamily Energy Program. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the other modules.